Hey guys, we are a couple days out of Comic-Con. I think we're still recovering. I didn't bother shaving this morning because I just didn't have the energy. Yeah, you know, we're still thinking about it. There was a lot going on there, a lot to see, a lot to do. So let's talk about what really stood out at Comic-Con. We'll start with Jim Vejvoda, master of film.
Oh my God, the pressure is on.
Yes, what stood out to you in the movie world?
Well, look, Saturday was the big day there, and that was Warner Brothers in the morning and Marvel Studios at the end of the day. Now, the Warner Brothers panel, of course, was dominated by DC Films, and it kicked it off with, you know, the four directors, but all the directors of the DC movies coming out. And then, of course, the first trailers from Wonder Woman and Justice League, and an appearance by the Suicide Squad, including Jared Leto as Joker, all coming out on stage. So that Wonder Woman and Justice League, we knew we would get a Wonder Woman trailer.
Yeah.
But Justice League actually putting out a sizzle reel, a trailer, that surprised me, and that really did win over the crowd, although I give the edge to Wonder Woman because that, I think, is just a better trailer. Look, Justice League just started filming a few months ago, so they're still putting stuff together. The fact that they would stick their neck out like that, and they kind of had to. They had to get over the bad
Win back
buzz,
people.
Win back people after BVS. So, you know, the fact that they put out a trailer and that it had some finished effects in there, especially Flash stuff, you know, I thought was pretty impressive. So they must have been planning for a while. We have to show up, and they just can't rely on the good word of people like us. Bringing it was put up or shut up. Marvel Studios, on the other hand, they only put out, released publicly the trailer for Doctor Strange, the new trailer. But they showed us that we're lucky enough to be in Hall H, footage from Spider-Man Homecoming, which was awesome. Extended footage from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and then some like funny behind the scenes stuff from Thor Ragnarok, and then of course brought out the cast of Black Panther and all of their upcoming stuff. And then announced Brie Larson as Captain Marvel. So those were the two, Marvel and the DC films were the big guns, and I think, you know, I want to say it's a draw. However, by virtue of ending Saturday at Comic-Con, Marvel Studios manages to dominate the news cycle for the next few days, even though Warner Brothers released all their trailers.
Yeah.
So I think Warner Brothers just maybe in the years ahead switch to a different day. Why share it with Disney? You can own an entire news day cycle instead of just getting 6 hours and then you're pushed out of everything because Marvel, just a deluge of Marvel stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone was loving that Wonder Woman trailer. It's just, then suddenly it's like, oh my God, even if you weren't in the room, you're just seeing all the news about Marvel.
Well, yeah, I mean, even though they only released the one trailer, they brought everybody and they all did press. The DC people didn't do press.
Right.
So, you know, you're ending the day with 1,000,001 interviews of 1,000,001 different, they brought everyone out on stage. It felt like not even everyone, just everyone from their upcoming crop of movies. And so you get all those interviews, everything's pushing out the DC stuff, which was good stuff, but it had a more finite shelf life by virtue of just the media cycle, the press cycle.
Before we move on, anything besides the Marvel and DC stuff that really jumps out like that?
Kong, Skull Island.
Yeah.
I love that trailer. I thought it, you know, I was on the fan, I'm like, wow, 100 foot or 150 foot tall King Kong, that's a little ridiculous, but that trailer was great. You know what? Well, we'll talk later about what we did. So yeah, Kong, Skull Island, and then, you know, I think, I'd say that's about it in terms of the other stuff. We didn't get to see the Valerian footage, but everyone else was raving about it.
Right.
So.
We hear it's good.
We hear it's good. There was
If I could add 3 things. One, the Skull Island trailer was really awesome.
Yeah.
Tom Hiddleston, though, I feel like I've gotten so used to seeing him as Loki, like skinny, pale, like the slick back hair. He looks so hunky now. He got a tan, short
This
haircut.
is Taylor Swift's Tom Hiddleston.
Yes, this is really good look.
He leveled up.
I could see him as James Bond all of a sudden. If I look really cool. I also loved Yondu with the mohawk.
Yeah,
that was
the
amazing,
blue
like from
skin,
the classic. That was
Finn.
The Finn.
Yeah. He came out on stage in full makeup with the Finn. It was awesome.
Yeah. I don't remember what the third thing was.
All right, we'll table that.
But it was, the DC stuff was awesome.
Yeah, I think Wonder Woman, that trailer made a huge impression on me when I was kind of burning through all those previews, but also Kong.
I think if that Spider-Man Homecoming footage had come out, that would be dominating everything. But yeah, I mean, right now, Wonder Woman is the better of the two DC trailers.
Yeah. Comic books. This is called Comic-Con.
Right.
Yeah.
Comic books.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
There's actual like paper comic books there.
Right.
It's kind of weird. Like sort of a trend of the past few years has been to announce everything before Comic-Con,
Right.
so it doesn't get lost in the Comic-Con hubbub, you know, all the other news that's coming out for the TV and movies and stuff. So there weren't really many huge announcements at the actual con. It was all sort of in the lead up. Marvel doing their Marvel Now stuff. DC kind of, even was just almost like about a month before Comic-Con, they did all their DC Rebirth stuff. There are a few other publishers who made some waves. Dark Horse Comics sort of like did this big like Joss Whedon splash the week of Comic-Con with doing another Buffy season 11 comic and a Serenity comic book, which is cool. So that's cool for them. And Boom Studios. I was really happy and really disappointed at the same time because they do the Power Rangers comic and they announced the Power Rangers annual with all these really awesome like comic book creators like Terry Moore and like people you're like, wow, I'd really love to see them do some Power Rangers stuff. But then I really wanted them to announce like maybe another spin-off. They're currently doing like a main series with a team. Then they're doing Power Rangers, like they call it Power Rangers Pink, where it's just the Pink Ranger. So I thought, oh, we're gonna get like red or green or blue, and we didn't get that. So I guess they're really just kind of holding on to it and like giving us it to us, you know, in small doses. But I want it now. I want it all now.
Patience.
But DC, I feel kind of like, you know, it was like a victory lap for DC Rebirth.
Right.
And in addition to that, they did some really cool stuff with Vertigo, some announcements, and Young Animal, Gerard Way, former lead singer of My Chemical Romance. Every book that he was talking about that he brought to the show for that new imprint was just awesome. And just like hearing him talk about it, like really sort of, you know, shed a lot of light on what they're doing. So it gets you really excited, not just for the superhero stuff, but sort of the other weird stuff that they're doing. And Marvel, you know, the one thing that was weird about their Marvel Now catalog leading up to the con was that there was no X-Men books except for one called Death of X.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, that's kind of weird. And so they did announce an X-Men comic, but it's Inhumans versus X-Men. It's like, come on, I've had enough of the Inhumans and pitting them against the X-Men, but it feels like, hopefully, I'm actually hoping this is like the end of the feud between those two franchises, then we can move on after that.
Like we got Uncanny Avengers.
Yeah.
We get Inhuman X-Men.
On a personal note, you had a pretty cool interview with Chadwick Boseman, star of Black Panther.
Oh yeah, that was pretty cool to hear him. Like, it was hard to actually hear him at all because there's this giant crowd right outside our balcony at Comic-Con going wild. But he was really cool, and just hearing him talk about what Black Panther can do, it was very like comic book stuff of like he has the support of the nation and all their technology, but also they're going to do, I think, you know, a very recent thing from the comic books where he can tap into the legacy of the Black Panther and the previous Black Panthers and like channel their like fighting energy, which is cool. Yeah.
For me on the TV side, you know, it is funny. Everything comes back to Marvel and DC right now these days. Because obviously Walking Dead had a big new trailer. Walking Dead was interesting because they had to play things so close to the vest because this all based around who died. That being said, it was a good trailer. It revealed the tiger. People were excited by the tiger. But when you come to all the Marvel and DC shows, I mean, Marvel officially announced Ghost Rider coming to S.H.I.E.L.D. as we suspected. I do get to say I told you so to some of the people in the comments.
And me too.
Because
I didn't say anything.
Some people were very skeptical that this was going to actually happen, but it is happening. Robbie Reyes, recent Ghost Rider with the car. So a big new addition to S.H.I.E.L.D., kind of a much bigger level character than they've had. And then on the DC side, they announced the Legion of Doom for Legends of Tomorrow, which is pretty cool. Yeah, it's cool because it's using existing characters from Flash and Arrow, teaming up. Reverse Flash, Malcolm Merlyn, Captain Cold, and Damien Dark. Yeah, all teaming up.
No Grodd?
No Grodd. Sorry.
Oh man, he was in the Legion.
I think he's not going to be a season-long. They don't have the budget yet to do a season-long Grodd. Maybe he'll make an appearance.
Of him walking around talking to all of them and debating.
Grodd's still got to be 1 or 2 episodes a season. But it's a cool thing that they're doing with that. They have some cool trailers for Arrow and Flash, which are the 2 shows that have actually been in production for a couple weeks. So able to show some content there. And kind of veering back to Marvel, this was the first year Netflix ever came to Comic-Con.
They usually went to
New York, but they've never come to San Diego, and they brought Luke Cage. But that was a cool panel because, though we weren't personally in it, Marty was, but it ended up being much more than just Luke Cage. Yes, they debuted the first Luke Cage trailer, which is really cool, but they also confirmed Daredevil's renewed for season 3. They showed an Iron Fist teaser, even though that's only been shooting for a little while. Yeah. And then they even showed a teaser for The Defenders, which again wasn't really a they haven't shot anything, but it was still like a pretty cool sort of imagery and revealing for sure that that's coming next year.
Yeah, no, I thought that was interesting because they took like different letters from each of the series kind of logos. So I'm assuming the E in Defenders was from Punisher?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Like they had another sizzle reel that showed footage from the 3 shows they filmed so far, including Luke Cage, but ended with a lot of Punisher from Daredevil. So, you know, obviously they're pushing him a lot. But I think that Luke Cage panel was really notable because it was only advertised as Luke Cage, and then it turned out to be kind of a bigger deal. John Bernthal appeared at it, and it was just a very big, like, here's everything we're doing at Netflix. And then I do want to mention there was 2 trailers that I think were really great, and one is American Gods.
Oh yeah.
Which people were already excited about, but it just, you know, had made a really big impression. Even, you know, if you even haven't read the books, I think you're just like, well, that looks very cool.
Yeah, that feels like it's the next sort of like Game of Thrones or kind of like just big genre show on TV.
Yeah, and Brian Fuller doing it, and just the image, Neil Gaiman is the source material, so that looks awesome. And then I think the big surprise that it even was there at all was the trailer to Legion, which Quesada teased to you, I'm going to show a Marvel TV trailer that we haven't ever shown at my panel.
Yeah, we're all like, what could it be? What are we
Right.
talking about? No one even thought Legion.
Yeah, because they made the odd decision not to panel Legion.
Yeah, but then I thought the trailer was really good.
I loved it. Yeah, I was already excited about that show because Noah
It's
Hawley.
Dan Stevens, right?
Dan Stevens
Yeah,
playing him. So a really cool trailer that I think just really stood out, but you know, I don't think has been seen by that many people yet. So let's talk about what maybe missed the mark a little bit. Is there anything you think, Jim, that sort of had a missed opportunity? Not counting studios that just didn't go.
Yeah, no, I have to say on the Warner Brothers side, the King Arthur Legend of the Sword thing just kind of fell flat for me. And then also Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, it didn't really make as much of an impression as I would have thought. They had this great bit of Eddie Redmayne running through the crowd and then handing out wands to everybody. But it just didn't wow the way I thought it would. Then on the Marvel side, you know, Doctor Strange is the movie I've been really looking forward to the most. And I think the sequence that they showed, not the trailer, they showed about a 5-minute sequence of the first time he meets the Ancient One. And it felt a little lukewarm to me, but I'm withholding judgment because when they did a press event a few years ago and showed the first footage to the press of Guardians, it was an edited sequence, so the jokes didn't land because the pacing was off. And I'm suspecting that's probably the case here as well. So, you know, that left me a little underwhelmed, but again, it's probably not how it actually will play in the final movie. And so far, Marvel, to me, hasn't ever really, you know, done a complete stinker. Even Iron Man 2, I thought, had its moments.
Right.
So I'm still very stoked for Doctor Strange.
And I do want to interject myself, but I thought it was odd, the Power Rangers, that they didn't panel, so there's like the cast was there and they did some stuff.
Ran into the Black Ranger on the street.
They revealed the helmets. It just felt like this would have been an opportunity.
Revealed some power coins that Joshua got
coins,
to hold.
yes.
But it felt like they should have, I don't know, some footage or something.
Yeah,
you know.
well, the story I heard was that the effects aren't ready. So.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's a martial arts thing. They could have brought some of them just like fighting each other without their suits. Like, doesn't that always
And
happen?
end with saying it's morphin time.
Yeah.
And everyone goes, yeah. And
Yeah, that was weird. It was weird to bring the whole cast there and all these props and
Yeah.
not like give something people to see.
Right. For you on comics, anything you kind of mentioned that actually Power Rangers, you liked what they said, but maybe they could have done a little more.
Yeah.
But anything else that you're like, that didn't quite hit the mark or didn't make the impression it could have?
I thought, you know, like Image Comics, usually they do like an Image Expo,
Yeah.
and they didn't do that this year, so I was like, aw. So there wasn't really much to get excited about there. You know, I understand that they want to not get lost in the Comic-Con news cycle, but it also means when you get to Comic-Con, there wasn't really any huge announcements.
Right.
So both like Marvel, DC, like any of the publishers didn't really like announce anything like earth-shattering that everyone's talking about coming out of it. So it's just kind of like, meh, you know, why don't you guys bring something like really cool? Marvel did have a few announcements, but you know, DC not really.
Yeah, on TV, it's impossible to say like, oh, they blew it with Game of Thrones because it's not going to hurt the ratings or anything. It was funny though that there was nothing of like sort of note of that panel. The big announcement they made a week before, that was actually just weird that they decided to announce the 7-episode season and that it'd be a summer debut in a press release the week before. So then they had nothing really to talk about there except for the season that happened. But again, it's Game of Thrones. They'll be
So
fine.
you're saying Game of Thrones though was a loser?
Yeah, and it's just gonna
Big
tank.
loser.
No one's gonna watch the
Boo.
end. And then again, it's hard to get too critical when you just know timing-wise, some of these shows simply haven't started filming, right? I was disappointed they didn't debut an image of Superman from Supergirl. They had
I know.
Tyler, can't say his last name,
Hecklin?
Hotchland.
We're all gonna. Oh, there you go.
I don't
We're
know.
all gonna learn
Well,
it. He was there, but they hadn't
There's a
started
photo of
filming.
him going around of meeting Brandon Routh.
Yeah, but I thought they'd have a picture of him in costume, and maybe they just don't have the final costume yet. So, but I just thought they could have maybe done something more with that. And those are the two that really stand out. Gotham, even though I know we already have our criticisms of Gotham, their sizzle reel, I thought I was surprised didn't include a little more, but no Poison Ivy yet. Lastly, just what jumps up to you, the thing that you think made the best impression on the movie side?
Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman.
I mean, look, DC needed good news. They needed excitement coming out of this after
Yeah.
BVS. Wonder Woman trailer has done that for them. Justice League trailer has helped, but again, it was a much more sort of story-driven. A lot of them not really in their costumes, but it didn't hurt Justice League. But I think the big one is Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, I agree.
Like I said before, this convention felt like DC Comics doing a victory lap
Yeah.
for just all their Rebirth books across the line are just like so good. The fans are loving them. I talked to some retailers. They said they're flying off the shelves, selling really well. So it feels like, while Marvel still is going strong, like DC is just like a little bit stronger right now. And not just their superhero stuff. Like I said, Vertigo and Young Animal are very, very exciting. So I feel like DC was really like popped for this Comic-Con.
I will switch it up and say for TV, it was a Marvel thing. I'm going to kind of cheat and say The Defenders, because again, it was a Luke Cage panel that looked great. But the fact that they got to sort of hype up the whole line of shows, debut footage we didn't think we'd see from shows down the line, and logos, that got people really hyped up for where they're going with this sort of team up. So that is our impressions of what really stood out at Comic-Con, and a couple things that didn't stand out as much as we wish they did. What do you think? Everything you've watched from Comic-Con, what was your favorite? Let us know in the comments. And for plenty more on all things comics, movies, TV, and conventions, as we rest up and get ready for the next one, keep it here at IGN.